Yes, we are here and we are finna talk about it. Is it really racism? Is racism infiltrating 2K or has it been here already for years? Some of the things we're gonna get into, something that Chalk had mentioned, Chalk being a prominent figure within the 2K community, attempts to break down how to create a successful pro-am team based on race. As Chalk believes people of color are good at one thing while white people are good at another. And we're going to break that all down and see what we think about this. I want to get y'all feedback. I needed to connect with y'all. I'm not certain if we're recording today. What up, Dominique? James Williams in the building. Shooter. What up? What up? Brandon Evans. No, he's actually talking about the color of the player skin, not actual, because there was theories in the 2K community that if you created a white player, like on 2K, that you'd be good at whatever. But Chalk is actually referencing the color of your skin, the color of the person that's actually playing, will determine what's what. And it's pretty wild. What up, Coach Z, Top Nizzle, Jay Riss in the building. Did you see that, Jay? That was pretty wild. My jaw dropped, pause, but my jaw, when I read that, I was just like in shock, really. I commend Chalk for his ability to maintain relevancy, is what I was trying to get at. And I've watched Chalk go through the toughest times and pull out on top. Pause. So, is this something that Chalk could get away from? I like to believe that this is one of those instances where 2K is dry and here comes Chalk, ready to stir things up. That's what I like. Yeah, that's what I'd like to believe, because that seems to be his nature above everything else. But we don't know. Is this Chalk? Is this his real views? We're gonna go over everything, man. What up, y'all? What up, Brian? What up, Pyrex? All City, you're amazing at what you do. Thank you, Old Head Gaming. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. It's been hard to make 2K content, but when I saw this, I said, this is right up my alley. Yeah, we could talk about this. I like talking about larger than life topics. What he's saying is a bigger issue. He is basing his reasoning on stereotypes, and it's complete stereotype. You ain't lying, Izzy. You ain't lying. This is complete stereotypes. And listen, I'm from New York, right? Where I'm born and raised in the Lower East Side, Manhattan. Or for instance, I put it in terms that you guys could better understand. Someone from the Bronx is completely different than someone from Brooklyn. Someone from Brooklyn is a culture thing. It's different from someone from Queens. If you put them in a lineup, you could probably pinpoint. There may be exceptions, but there's a particular upbringing. And we're in the same state. And it's crazy to me how someone would attempt to define. So in other words, if someone was defining a New Yorker, within New York, we'd be like, if he's from Queens, he's different. And if he's from BX, you could probably tell the homies from the BX or the homies from BK. How does someone outside try to label? That's my confusion. How do you attempt to label folks, if you don't know them, solely based on the color of their skin? It's pretty wild to me. What up, Mars? What are we talking about? Chess players? Definitely not basketball. Yeah, that's, we're gonna break it all down, yeah. We're gonna break it all down. We're gonna review y'all gonna be in shock. If you haven't seen the video, I dropped the video earlier today, breaking it all down. But I figured I'd go live to share some of my thoughts on it. And hopefully get some of you guys to share your thoughts. Dreamer Gaming said, Chalk is like Kanye, 2K legend, but man thrives and stays relevant off of controversy. Chalk will always be Chalk. Sizzle said, Chalk ain't lie. Black players are flashy more often than not. Not a big deal, fool. that was sizzle. Yeah, the level of ignorance, man. I tell you, the level of ignorance eludes me, especially right now. At the times we're in right now, it eludes me. So you could imagine what it looked like back then for like our parents and our grandparents, because the level of ignorance is just silly. And I think is, how some people like, all right, for instance, for me, I grew up in the PJs. So the PJs was my whole world. And whatever happened in the PJs was my whole world. But that was a young state of mind, right? So hear me out here for 1 second, yeah, before we pull up these tweets. That was my whole world, and I only knew my world, and my world was only filled with Puerto Rican and Black folks and Dominicans, primarily, I'd say, predominantly. And we live right by the East River. It was a park, so being that I grew up in Manhattan, white folks would attempt to go to this park. But to get to this park, you got to cross through the projects. The only way to get to the park is to cross through the projects. Seeing a white person was a rare occasion. And oh man, the stories. But some white folks would want to get to the park. And what I mean is, if I was to define all white people, if I was that ignorant to define all white people based on my perception in my tiny bubble or corner of the world, I'd be ignorant because I haven't experienced enough of white cultures or enough different. And then within white people, there's so many different cultures on top of that, similar to the Queens, Brooklyn, or BX Brooklyn argument. So I don't know if Chalk is basing his experience off of his little bubble of the 2K community, but I've seen different, and I'm just like all of us, smart enough to know that ain't no way you could define how a player plays by what he's queuing up in his controller. Ain't no way. If anything, I'd say that has more to do with how you were raised, in the sense of, did you play basketball? Were you playing sports? Do you have an understanding? Do you watch basketball? I wouldn't ever solely base it on the color of your skin. That's like a next level of ignorance. And there's something about me there's something about Chalk that tells me he's smarter than that, and this had to be a way of creating controversy or maintaining relevancy. At least that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Unbounded. If I was to lean one way or another, I was thinking like that. So let's get into what he said. Let's start out with the first post. Yeah. What up, Maddie? So much ignorance in everything. It's sad how it's still an issue to this day, from politics to now gameplay. Well, from my experience being an online gamer, racism exists because it's young kids that get on the mic and just consist. Can you put a fire emoji if this has happened to you? Because I want to do a check, and this will help for everybody. This, in a way, I'll share my experience, and you guys just put a fire emoji if you've experienced the same thing. Too many times I've gone into game lobbies, and a young person will get on the mic and just holler N-word, N-word, N-word with the hard R. And that's all they'll say. Even if you have a rebuttal, they'll just shout over you saying the same thing. Please put a fire emoji if that's happened to you, so we can get an idea. I'll wait. Just to get an idea. How are people experiencing online gaming? And you guys can see the fire emojis on the screen. What I'm getting at here is that we know racism, it exists in gaming. But I think sometimes, especially influencers, creators, people that are well known within the community, you don't want to. I don't like the idea of these folks encouraging this idea. And it's like one of those, it's a lack of self-awareness per se, because if somebody, as many of us that will point out, let's go over. Matter of fact, before let's put this in context first. I want to put this in context. We're going to pull up the first tweet, so that way what I'm speaking makes sense. We'll review it, and then what I'm speaking will make more sense. Let me pull it up so I can see it real quick. Here we go. In the first tweet, matter of fact, it was all one tweet, but I had to take two snippets. Well, in this first part of the tweet, he says, here's a foolproof. Now, this is key here. Here is a foolproof 5v5 guide to know if your Pro-Am team will be successful. And he's basing the success of your Pro-Am team behind the color of the actual player skin. He said, let's break it down. PGs can be any skin color as the game PGs can be any skin color as the game has changed over the years. Your white PGs are going to play the game much more safe, insinuating subtly that black or light skin players will play unsafe. They'll look to pass and get everyone involved. While your light skin and black, wow. It's almost like I truly cannot understand the mind state or the lack of, the best word is learning, the lack of learning. I can't believe someone could build themselves up to an influential figure within any community and still have this lack of understanding. But anyway, we'll just keep it going. While your light skin and black PGs will play the game with much more flair and they'll look to score first. Traditionally, white point guards have had more league success. Now, this could be Chalk just pointing out what he may see as fact. You know, he's played in the league. He knows what it takes to be in the league. And he may have seen, like I said, from his perspective in his little bubble, that white point guards are more successful because they play a more structured format. What do you guys think about that first part? I had to pull up, and I know it's hard. I trust me, I know it's hard to take in. And I know a lot of you guys' thoughts, whether you're white or black, are like, you're just flooding because you would have so much to say. He's not attacking per se. There's not a heavy offense. He's not just outright attacking. It's almost like he's speaking what he's experienced, but he's putting it off as fact or a guide, a foolproof guide to being successful in Pro-Am. That's what he's saying. So he's pretty much describing what he knows and what he believes. Yeah, so we'll get. I feel the same way though. I just read. I'm flabbergasted. But let's scroll up. What is this? That's what Andrew Vega said. Well, I hate to admit it, but my character is white, but I do it to be funny. Pistol Pete is my favorite player, so I usually go for that look. I hear that. Yeah, I hear that. I don't even think we're not talking about the color of your skin, but there are a bunch of white people who create black colored players, and the same vice versa. I think it's a matter of how you're viewing the game. The good homie All City Don, he creates all color throughout the year. He'll switch from a light skin to a dark skin to white. So I've seen it. And I think it's one thing to say, all right, your character player skin color is one thing, but your actual skin color for the actual player on the controller, that don't make no sense. Either way, I'll keep it going. He ain't trying to be funny. He's trying to get views, and it's savvy because it's working exactly as intended. And this is exactly what I was kind of getting at. That's what Off Color said. It is one thing for us to know, or like for me, I would assume that that's what Chalk is doing, because I've been watching him for a little while, a few times over throughout doing this YouTube stuff. I thought he was going to get canceled, and he didn't. He would always continually grow on top of that. Is this one of those instances? Is this one of those instances where Chalk is pretty much baiting the community. And YouTube creating a video is it's like clickbaiting. So is he baiting, sharing his views and his thoughts? And if these are his views, like, should Chalk be held accountable for his views and his thoughts? Not accountable in the sense that he deserves a certain type of penalty, but maybe put on a platform to elaborate and share. I imagine that if Chalk was put on that platform, he'd say something along the lines of, "This is what I've seen." And that's why I said it's probably his own little bubble. That's what he's seen. Let's keep it going. Top Nizzle said, Chalk is the homie, but that is cringeworthy. Woo! What up, OG? OG, triple OG. Dirty Jers in the building. Joe Guac said, I'm Mexican and I just scam myself in. I do the same, but I'm not Mexican. But I do the same. I actually thought he might be trolling, talking about the color of appearance of a 2K build. Crazy to be talking about the player behind the sticks. But we're going to get into it because that's only the first part, yeah. That's only the first part. We're going to get into everything. Let's recreate this with character traits instead. If your point guard has green fro, you know he's going to be aggressive. Thank you. See how weird it sounds, though? Have his Manu ball spot, he's gonna create for others. Manu. Yeah, so I get what you're saying, Off Color, that there's ways in which you could create your player to look a certain way. It's just like someone wearing 2K sneakers, we probably really wouldn't notice. Was there a super chat? Is that? I didn't see it. My fault. Thank you, Semper. Semper with a $4.99 super chat. He said, I heard that the reason black people are better at 2K because they have an extra tendon in their thumbs or the right. So, you know, sometimes we forget that we're so much more similar than we're different. And that's a perfect example of what Semper just mentioned, that that folks that was good, Semper. Folks might be better at 2K because black folks might be better at 2K because they have an extra tendon on their he said, or this could just all be stupid BS. Exactly. So we're gonna that was good, man. Thanks for sharing that, Semper. We're gonna pull up the next part of this tweet because that was just the point guard. That was just so glad I got off 2K. This ish is beyond ridiculous. What up, Delatox? This pretty much wraps it up. Now, I'm not going to mention the players because he had some football reference in this stuff, so we'll skip past that. But in regards to the shooting guard position, we covered the point guard and what he believes black and white point guards play like. Shooting guards are typically dominated by non-white players. Your white shooting guards may not be as elite when it comes to ball handling, but they value possessions and can slot in anywhere. Non-white shooting guards are usually faster and glitchier when it comes to dribbling. You may find, and that's when he references the football players. He wraps that portion up in regards to shooting guards, saying, I have never seen a white dribble god in my life. So that's the shooting guard position. I don't know what you guys think about it. This got to be the worst take ever. Not going to lie. Bro, it's done. I think it is a pretty bad take myself. I do think it's a pretty bad take. And this was somewhat lean. But then, you know what's crazy? Throughout my years in the 2K community, although I do believe it's a bad take, I know I've heard conversations where folks are kind of leaning towards some of the things that he's describing. So the reason why I brought that up is, do I think there's people out there that will definitely vouch for what he's saying in here? From my experience with a lot of 2K players over the years, I would say, yeah, there's probably a lot of people that are vouch. Even if they don't want to do it publicly, they've expressed similar sentiments in the past, is what I'm getting at. So that was the shooting guard position. Let's move on to the lock position. Yeah, you're gonna wild out about this. You cannot, in capital letters, draft a white lock. I repeat, you cannot draft a white lock. They are extremely There are the extremely rare Christian McCaffreys out there, but it's far and few in between. Drafting a white lock is a death sentence. 99% of the time, he pretty much said it is a death sentence 99% of the time, but he goes on to say they just have no grit. Now, I found that ironic because one of the lockdowns that I preferably like running with is a guy named Sneaky, and he's white. And he's probably one of the most aggressive lockdowns, always in somebody's grill. So Semper Reloaded with another 4.99 super chat said, did he mention how terrible Puerto Ricans are at the PG position? Oh, what is that all about? We have Puerto Ricans that are good at the point guard position, man. We have some Puerto Ricans out there that go crazy. I think BP's Puerto Rican. No? I think BP's Puerto Rican. I could be mistaken. But that's funny, Semper. Wait, who made that public? This is Chalk, yeah. This is Chalk. I'll pull up I just snipped it in two parts, but you see, that's the first part of the tweet, and this is the second part of the tweet. So lockdowns, if you're white, you just don't have it. Is that like, how do we come to that? Like, what happens that allows us to come to that? Who is Chalk? Well, Chalk was, he's a known 2K player. Chalk is really good at the game, always praised for his gameplay. He was in the 2K league, and he's a creator. So what I'm saying is he's a relevant figure within the 2K community. And this is Chalk sharing his thoughts. Imagine it was like a prominent NBA player came out and said what he noticed about other players. Imagine this for a second. Came out and said similar things to what Chalk is saying. NBA come out of retirement. Maybe he's taking a few years off or whatnot to come back. I don't know. But just imagine an NBA player saying, well, white people, boom, this. And black people, this. And if you want to win the championship, then you got to have a white center. If you want to win the championship, you need to have a black lock. Imagine that this is what he's saying. Like that's very similar. I think this is what Chalk don't fully grasp, but it seems to be very similar to what he's saying. Racial ideology and sundown laws and racial views towards minorities. It goes all the way up to the county sheriff. That's unscripted, talking about where Chalk is from. I'll read that off. Unscripted said Chalk is from Lakerland, Florida. The county that he lives in still have a racial ideology and sundown laws and racial views towards minorities. It goes all the way up to the county sheriff, is what Unscripted just put. Pliz says, shout out to my white folks out there. Yeah, for real. I mean, this is not a matter of attacking. If we're attacking anything, we're attacking ignorance, right? I would imagine if we're attempting, and this is ironic that Unscripted put that there, because this is what I was mentioning. If I was to develop an idea about white people, based off of my little bubble where I grew up, I would only see one white person maybe a month. Like in a month's time, you see one white person. So that this is what I was getting at. If I was to be ignorant enough to express my ideas about white people, I'd probably say some wild stuff that everybody else in the world is like, what are you talking about? White people are not like that. So this is what I'm getting at, is that maybe it seems to be either Chalk is trolling or he's completely ignorant. Like that, seriously, just don't know, which I highly doubt. I highly doubt that's the case. Larry Bird was offended when they put a white guy on him. That's what Hoke said. No city or town in the U.S. has sundown law, is what Loop God said. Can't we all just get along? Is what Never Fold with a $2 super chat. Never Fold. Matt Stay Fly said Chalk should get banned for a month. No debate. Well, let's finish reading it. Let's finish reading it so we could really have it all in perspective. Now, we covered the lockdown, saying do not draft a white lock. Now we go into power forwards. Power forwards are a mixed bag as well. When you can find success in all, where you can find success in all, but typically your best power forwards end up being white. They lights out shooters and just very smart with their rotational calls. And Power DF has something to say about this, which I thought was a great response, which we're going to get into in just a second. But does this mean when he's speaking about what he believes the good traits for a white power forward, and this is where I think some of us may feel a certain way, and we could be honest about this, yeah, because let me move this over. We could be honest about this. Let me move that over just a little bit. When he's referencing what he believes are good traits for white folks that play 2K, does this insinuate that folks that are not white, whether they're light skinned, black, Asian, whatever, folks that are non-white don't have these good attributes? In other words, should folks that are non-white see this as an insult? Power forwards are a mixed bag as well, where you can find success in all, but typically your best power forward ends up being white. Lights out shooters and just very smart with their rotational calls. So it doesn't mean every other non-white player is not a lights out shooter and they're not very smart with the rotational calls. So what I'm getting at is here, this is how some people may perceive this. Just for this, they may be having a bad day. And they may take this in and say, what the, I ain't even, they're looking at the color of their skin like, yo, I ain't insult you, Chalk. That's probably what, and then, they choose that direction. They choose that to direct their energy. He got to be trolling. No way he that stupid. Well, let's talk about the centers. As far as the center position, center is another mixed bag where you can find success everywhere, but that seemingly ends up just being dominated by white players. There's success in all realms, but if you're trying to land a stud, you go white. He said tradition. I can't believe Chalk is that crazy. But, I could just thank God that I am not around that level of ignorance, because Lord knows how folks react. And I think it's more so the ignorance multiplies because you're a relevant figure in the community. That's why the ignorance multiplies in my eyes. And then I think about, well, if it's to troll views, that's a pretty slimy way, in my opinion, to troll for views. It's one of those things where you see folks, go out and I guess if we did consider, I was going to say it's one of those things where you see folks go out and do something stupid IRL just for the sake of views, like might get themselves slapped or something like that. Where they do those stupid pranks for the sake of views. It reminds me of that. But then again, when we use that, it's like, well, but it's not really that. It's just typing. But when you're somebody in Chalk's position, is it really just typing? Something to think about. He said Chalk trying to do the Cat Williams numbers. And that's another thing. I appreciate you brought that up, man, Anthony. He said 2K folks got to start. 2K got folks finna start a race war on the gameplay, and that's what I wanted to get at, because it feels like 2K is so dry that something like this could take precedence. Screw it. We need a white versus black day. You see, when we talk about it, if we really wanted to get down to it, how do you figure that out? And that's what I find confusing. This is why I said, where did Chalk get these stats from? in the video. I mentioned that because it's like, hold on a second, my guy, where are you pulling these stats from, bro? What? And then are you up there looking at every single player on Pro-Am? Like, how do you know they're white or black? So it furthers the idea that he's just really basing this off of his own little bubble, his own little corner of the world. And he's putting it off, he's peddling it, which we'll read in his own words, as here's a foolproof 5v5 guide to know if your Pro-Am team will be successful. Like, where the hell are you peddling this stuff at in KKK land? What in the world? Simple Reloaded with a $4.99 super chat says, so let me get this straight. He's saying that the lock, whose primary purpose is to steal the ball, can only be black. That's really messed up. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? That's, I don't even think about it that way, but that's crazy. Are you calling all black locks like they need to wear the black Air Force Ones? What up, Delatox? You don't figure it out because none of this makes any sense. I remember it used to be who has better by state, and now it's race. You know, I got to tell you guys, and I've never, maybe a lot of you guys could probably believe this because I'm probably older than a lot of you folks, but I've never looked at while playing 2K and thought he sucks because he's white, or he sucks because he's black, he sucks because he's Spanish. So I literally just messaged my squad and told them that I'm apparently too black to be a point guard. Okay. I mean, hold on. To be a point guard and gonna go shooting guard. They all said, like, how the hell you are? That was good, man. Appreciate you sharing that, Deshaun. Trolling or not, these statements make no sense, are unfounded, and are narrow-minded. I mean, he has plenty of examples, yeah, and that's what I mean, yep. From his fellow content creators, comp players, and 2K League players. Now, we got to put this in perspective, y'all, because Chalk is above a lot of players. Within the 2K community, a lot of people know that Chalk is really good at the game. So, you know, it is one of the higher, the upper echelon type of players. Is I imagine what a lot of folks refer to Chalk when talking about gameplay. And this is the person that's sharing these thoughts. It's not like it's just a regular bum player that nobody knows. Chalk has proven how good he is already. So once you go black, oh man, I'm not even gonna finish that. I don't think he should be banned for this, but he definitely should be made fun of for it. That was Simple Reloaded. Yeah, I definitely don't think he should be banned. I don't think that. I don't think you should ban people for their ignorance, but having a conversation like what we're doing now, that's definitely helpful. Maybe show some different. By the way, that kind of helps me to segue into, which I think a lot of you guys are going to like, Power DF's response, which I'll pull up on screen. I don't think you guys will be able to read it. I'll try and put it in the, I'll try and put it in the chat slot real quick while we go over it. This is what Power DF had to say. Woo! He said, do the Caucasians, doesn't Chalk play as a shoot first point guard as a white guy? The thing he says, the white people don't play like. That's what Off Color said. Agent Q, what up, Agent Q? He said, my white friends say that the brothers never want to play with them. That's funny. All right, so we're going to go over this, what Power DF said, and I'll read it verbatim. He said, I wasn't even going to bother replying, but this tweet is not only incorrect, it is also racist and harmful. You just took a bunch of racial stereotypes and assumptions and put them in a tweet. And you encourage people to draft based on race? extremely harmful, by suggesting that white point guards inherently play more cautiously and are more team oriented. White, while light skin, excuse me, while I should probably pull it up on a bigger screen because I'm reading it exactly like how y'all reading it. Give me a second. I'll see if I can get there. Where was I at? While he said, while light skin and black PGs are depicted as more individualistic and flashy, you're reinforcing dangerous racial stereotypes. You subtly imply that blacks may be more self-centered or less intelligent in their gameplay, which is based on nothing and is just wrong. What up, Kill 'em Kyrie? Power DF going in. I saw this and it said, I think back of the issues that Power DF had in the past with the DF breakup and stuff. And I feel like I've been watching for a little while. And man, Power DF is growing. So let's continue on, and because I really like this response. He said, but then you continue with your tweet specifically categorizing shooting guards and centers by race, asserting that shooting guards are usually non-white and better at certain skills, while white shooting guards are not as adept in those areas but bring other qualities to the game. This is not only unfounded, but it's also harmful, as it promotes stereotypes rather than recognizing individual skills and talents. More alarming, you state, you cannot draft a white lock, implying that white players in the position are inferior. Such a claim is blatantly racist. It's not only inaccurate, but also damaging, as it perpetuates a narrative where race is the deciding factor in a player's value, not who they are or what skills they have. Encouraging a team to draft based on a player's race is the very definition of racism. And none of it is true. The assertion in your tweet that white players can't be elite dribblers, and the specific claim, I've never seen a white dribble god in my life, is just factually wrong. Many dribble gods in the community, like Hank the Tank and Cole the Man, both of whom they're white, clearly disprove this claim. And then the suggestion to preferentially draft a white center to get a stud while ignoring the talents of all skilled black centers is just overtly raceless and also wrong. It's all wrong. And yes, it's racist. You've managed to encourage drafting not based on talent, but race. That's the literal definition of racism. Woo-wee! Man. First of all, I just want to say this. I love when I see men articulate themselves well, especially in a topic that could infuriate you, especially in a topic that could get you acting maybe out of character. I love it. I wish more people focused, especially in situations like this, on the best way to articulate it so somebody could understand. If you really want to find a common ground, it's probably the best way is to use your words. He said, WTF, this about the raise. Yeah. So there's just no data to back up his claims, just a meaningless debate. I thought it was a W take as well. Oh, Cheat Code is here. What up, Cheat? Fear God in the building. But I feel the same way. I think it was a W take. And it probably went against that response. If I'm not mistaken, I think Power DF is black. I don't know if it's ever truly been like his actual picture ever truly came out. But anyway, if he is black, I like that his response probably went against, considering Chalk's words, went against Chalk's whole stereotype. He said, what? I'm not supposed to get this response. So I thought that was pretty ironic, and maybe that was partly due to what fueled Power DF's response in such an articulate way. You don't even know the next man. Yeah, people swear they know each other on 2K. You know, it's like folks forget. It takes years to get to know somebody. Years. You can see surface level, just like we're talking surface level based off of what Chalk shares publicly. For all we know, he could be somebody completely different in the real world. Mess around, He goes to black Thanksgivings and all his best friends are black, and he's just living his best black life in Florida. Mess around, Chalk is probably out there. Man, he's trying to stereotype the Mags race. Don't know each other. It's a video game. Yeah, yeah, and it's facts. It's a video game, and but what I find, like, this is why I said Chalk is he's something like a genius at maintaining relevancy. It's like the homie said earlier. It's like, here we are, we're talking about it, and that was his intention, and we understand that was his intention. But maybe this could be a learning point for a lot of us, and who knows? Maybe something like this could lead to a situation where it's like, how dare you share that level of ignorance, and the public reacts accordingly, and the person who shares that level of ignorance suffers consequences that they didn't think they would. And that's another thing, Bambo. I kind of thought the same thing. Simply using the NBA, and I got to thinking, because Bambo said just weird when the NBA is so diverse at every position. So I was thinking the same thing prior to even going live, because I was anticipating what scenarios or comments would come up, and that was one of the scenarios. I started to think about the NBA, and I'm like, damn, there were goated players at every single position. Just how it was. And for somebody to base the success of your pro-am team, because that's how it was completely labeled. I think it was completely labeled as, where is it at? Oh, I changed it for that one. Sorry, I'll give me bring it back up. Here's a foolproof 5v5 guide to know if your pro-am team will be successful. Chalk is a wild boy. At least something is happening this season. And that's another thing that I was thinking about as well. I'm like, man, it's, let me see if I put on this light here. Yeah, that's better. I was kind of feeling the same way. I was feeling like it's been so dry that at least we have something more productive to kind of get into. Chalk hurt like Luka dealing with this. There are great players at every race, especially with all the international players who are not white. It's just a dumb convo. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'm happy that most are feeling this way. I'm happy that it didn't, because to me, and this is why I wanted to get a pulse from y'all. Like, I wanted to check in with y'all, see. Hold on, because let me see if I need to be recording. Nope, no response. Give me 1 second. Nope, no response. All right. So I guess we're not recording the 2K crossover report today. All right. We should have those two go one-on-one, and Mills Lane's the referee. He said, Fear God said, I think Chalk was overthinking, or he went delusional, probably because he didn't sleep too much. It goes kind of show you what some of these internet folks will do. They do anything. Yeah, and if anything, it seems to be a lack of integrity. Yeah, integrity is what you do when nobody's looking. It's what you have, how you hold yourself when nobody's looking. My dude just jumped out the window, and I can't front. This is part of what I admire about Chalk, and I'm curious to see what happens now, which I don't think anything will, and I don't think anything has to. It's his views. But maybe something productive could come out of it, something along the lines of maybe we see a one-on-one interview, like the homie said, where folks could share their thoughts, and maybe enlighten folks on their ignorance. They know what will get clicks, and clicks is one thing, but there's a long-term effect. There's definitely a long-term effect in this, because it's taxing. Put yourself in Chalk's shoes, and I'm not getting y'all to sympathize with him, but just imagine this for a second, being in that man's shoes, constantly thinking of a weird way to get views. especially when things go dry and you start grasping at everything. It's like, well, let me try this. Well, let's do this. Uh, what I'm getting at, if it's inauthentic to who you really are, the less authentic you are as a content creator, the more taxing it is. Period. Uh, because content creation is such a long term thing. So what I maybe Chalk is short sighted, and that's just it. Maybe that's just really the issue. But thinking long term, I wouldn't want to be that person 10 years into my online career or whatnot. I wouldn't want to be that person constantly trying to reinvent the wheel. And what I mean to say is, down the line, especially if you want considerable growth, you're gonna have to answer for some of these things because the internet's forever. That's the real facts. So we'll see what happens. Because I think there would be some long-term effects to just trying to get views. The only black versus white conversation that I will ever consider being a part of is chocolate and vanilla ice cream. Neither one of that's not even a conversation for me. I take maybe strawberry ice cream, if anything. I was typing quick autocorrect race. He just comes off as low IQ and desperate for attention to me. I understand. I get why folks see that. Bambo said, I agree. He's going for short term validation. Mag said, it's just a video game. Everybody, please stop trying to be extra. Hey, you know what, though? It is just a video game, but there's something underlying here, because we play with a lot of black folks, and as many times as we heard somebody get on the mic and just holler N-word, N-word, N-word with the hard R, and hear me out here. As many times as we've heard that, nobody ever had like a crazy reaction to it. It was like, get the F out of here. Somebody ban this idiot. That's 9 times out of 10 throughout these years is always a chill type of response. Get out of here, clown. But the reason why I'm saying there's an underlying issue here is because despite this thing not really riling anybody up, they still continue with the hard R. Like, that's the ultimate insult. And I don't even know if the people on the other end are white or some other race or black trolling. I'm just saying it happens. And what I'm getting is that folks really consider it, like they know that that's supposed to be rage inducing. So obviously they're doing it for a reaction, and they're not getting the reaction they want. But yet they still get the kick. Like, the drill is in saying it. It's almost like they're not even listening to the response anymore, because they will see that it has no effect. There's a thrill in just saying it. Maybe it's because they've learned that you're not supposed to say that, and that's why they get the thrill. But hey, who knows? I'm just saying. But it's these type of conversations that kind of start boiling these things. I can't believe he typed that whole thing out. I would have gotten 2 sentences into it and said, I'm not reading all of that. Well, I was kind of thinking that. And so, he led so well with the first sentence saying, this is the foolproof guide. Yeah, they definitely won't say these things IRL. Definitely not. We know this. I think that's probably the next statement we say. Like, when we hear the hard R, I bet you won't say that IRL. Because we never heard it IRL. It's a rare occasion when you hear it IRL. Rare. For some folks, it's probably not as rare. I get that. Or maybe back in the day, most definitely, it wasn't as rare. But if you're in a progressive city, it's a rare occasion that you hear somebody hard R you. And I get that. Attention seeking people who hate themselves. So I thought this was interesting. The foolproof guide. Now, if we was to say lighten it up, let's get away from race for a second. Let's lighten it up. I know for the folks that may consider responding to this, you're probably like, I gotta have some big balls to just mess around and respond on this platform. But have you noticed? Because, like I said, through the conversations that I've heard over the years, and I put that together and see, well, how does someone like Chalk, who's been around a long time, how does someone like Chalk develop these ideas? And then I think of my history in the 2K community and hearing folks' conversations and say, yeah, them folks felt like that too. That's why I think a lot of people would vouch for what he's saying. Does anybody in the stream vouch? Please don't attack anybody who has the slightest bit of understanding. Let's have a respectful conversation here. Somebody kind of agrees with some of the things Chalk said, but is anybody in agreement with his viewpoints, even at the most ignorant levels? Even if you could admit that it's definitely ignorant thought, but these are thoughts that pop into my mind. I do notice this. Like somebody told me, somebody had put in the chat just a little while ago that they're Puerto Rican and that they noticed. I think he said that he was. I think this is the guy. I could be mistaking it, but he was Puerto Rican and he noticed that we create black looking players on 2K, the character build, that they get the ball more and white looking players don't. So if you've noticed something like that, and there was a theory, this is a theory within the 2K community as well, that if you created a white character, you would shoot better or whatnot. And I think it vacillated between sometimes the black players will shoot better, not black people playing, but the black created characters would play better as if they had more attributes. And that was a theory that went on for quite a few years in 2K. Does anybody feel like that? If there's any type of player I hate the most in 2K, is the AI itself. You top that. It's a bunch of nonsense, honestly, is what JB said. Nah, only judgment I made is when I hear a kid on the mic. They definitely selling. Ain't no way. It is wild. Yeah. That's what he said, absolutely not, but to each his own. Larry said low key, it was true. You see what I mean to say? Some folks have this feeling, and there's like conversations within the community that they have this idea, almost like the stereotypes take precedence over reality. And you'll force someone into that stereotype even if they don't fit, because you think in your mind they're supposed to fit in this box that you done created for them. The AI is the true superstars. Yeah, right? Like the AI is probably the most goated players on 2K. Danny Dome said, pause by the way, said, my roommate and I are two examples of this philosophy being wrong. I'm a 70% shooter and use dribble moves, and he's a center averaging triple doubles with 20 boards. He says I'm white at the 2 and he's black at the 5. and that's what I thought was most alarming about the whole thing, is that it's almost like he didn't recognize while he's explaining these things, he didn't stress enough how there could be like a lot of exceptions to what he's speaking, although he labeled it the foolproof plan to success in Pro-Am. He's probably messing around going to start selling them. Mess around if I know Chalk, he mess around and create a little pamphlet and sell them joints $20 each. and then you'll have all the Pro-Am teams looking exactly the same. Seems like people just don't pass the damn ball. Well, join the Discord. If you guys haven't joined Discord yet, definitely consider joining. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. We're still working on hitting 100,000. We're less than 7,000 away. so you can help us get one step closer. Definitely want to hit that 100,000 soon. You guys can help make that happen. Uh, I am Southern. I am Southern God. Southern the God. I play solo rec. Everybody bad. I don't care. That's how I kind of see it the same way. I'm not making any assertions about race, but all of the crazy rec randoms I have run into on mic just happen to be black. Yeah, I think, and see, these are things like when we see something like that, that's just your actual experience, and you can say that my actual experience. So, if, for instance, if Chuck had rephrased this whole thing and never labeled it the foolproof guide to success for pro-am, if he had never done that, then we could put this into the context of his ignorance or the context of his limited scope of reality. You know what I mean? We could put that in there, but the fact is he labeled it the foolproof 5v5 guide to success on pro-am, and then went on to say the players, and I think that's where things go wrong, and you're almost speaking it as fact, and it's not. Better serves to say, in my experience. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Dirty Jers. If it was in my experience, hey, so, all right, y'all, I was in the Pro-Am League. I won this Pro-Am League, and I played in the actual professional 2K League, and I was the MVP in the 2K League. And then he goes on to share his experience. See, in that case, we don't analyze Chalk. He just shared his experience. Maybe some things he's heard and seen. We won't be analyzing like who has the mentality, and won't be an attack on Chalk. Folks will start looking at the 2K League because this player developed this perspective. That's not what Chalk's speaking from. What up, Slim? What's good, brother? This just in, Chalk apology video dropping soon. I could see it. I could see it. The dude is like an evil genius. Chalk is like an evil genius. He's the evil genius of the 2K community. And maybe that's what he was trying to strive for. I don't know. Maybe he was striving for that. 181 in the chat. Appreciate y'all being here, man. Where do you go from here? In my own personal experience, when playing rec, I always have at least one player that talks a lot of nonsense and does next to nothing to help the team. And they've all been white. That was the Sean McLean. And the same, there's my honest feedback. For everybody that's butt cheeks that was black, there was somebody who was white that was just as butt cheeks. The same goes vice versa. In any position, never point guard, any center. There's bad players from all sorts of backgrounds. That's my experience, and that's why I can't understand how folks are determining this based on the color of your skin. It eludes me because I've seen them all. Seen good black players, good white players, and everything in between for that matter. It's been years I've been playing this joint. He left himself zero room for plausible deniability. He sure did, and that's what I'm. Thank you, Semper. That's why I was saying when we break it down, it's like if he would have rephrased it a certain way, we could have said, "Well, let's look at the 2K League and what are their ethics looking like?" Because maybe folks need to dig deeper in there if they're breeding a culture to develop a perspective that Chalk has. You get what I'm saying? So that's how I think if somebody wants to get to the root of the problem, that's what they'd be thinking. But nah, Chalk owned all of it. He said this is his joint, this is his perspective. Here's a foolproof 5v5 guide to know if your pro-am team will be successful, and then goes on to say, white people are good at this, and black people are good at this. White people are bad at this, and black people are this. So, and that was based, he went on in each position: point guard, shooting guard, lockdowns, power forwards, wildness, just complete wildness. What advice? Chalk couldn't at least hate on Ricans even a little bit. Yeah, Lord knows what he feels about Puerto Ricans, man. Lonely, the Lord knows. He probably never met one, messing around. But geez, comes in all colors, shapes. Yeah, facts. People got an equal opportunity to suck at 2K. Easily, they got an equal opportunity to suck at 2K instead of foolproof. Yeah, right. The foolproof. Mess around. That would have been better if you would have put the foolproof. FOOL. What up, Blake? What's going on, man? What up, Levy? I'm chilling. I'm chilling. Hopefully, y'all good as well. The whole thing is just funny to me. It's kind of funny to me as well. I don't take it too seriously, and if this was a bait by Chalk, it's probably in our best interest not to take it too seriously. But if it was a bait to work against Chalk's intentions, I think it's good that we had a conversation. I think it's good that we recognize how silly and stupid it is, because these type of jokes and pranks reviews they're old, they're dry, they're stale by now. You would think creators with a little relevance will have way more integrity, but some don't. And maybe this is a ploy just to kind of get views and stuff. If it is, the way you work against that is, I would imagine from his perspective, speaking the way he was speaking, and he spoke about white people the same way he spoke about black people. I know the response that he wouldn't want is to continue to elaborate on this topic. Do you get what I'm saying? He just wanted to stir a moment. He wanted people to fight amongst each other. Do you get what I'm saying? He didn't want to be involved. Causes divide. There you go, Bambo. So the way in which to work against that is to show, and I'm not trying to be cliche or corny here, but it's to unite. You get what I mean to say? You don't need to unite and become brothers, because ain't none of y'all trying to visit me. It's not happening. So don't even try to ask. Can I stay over, city? Nah, bro. Go home. Get out of here. But just to kind of say, come on, this is so senseless, it's corny. And I think, in my opinion, Chalk is getting way too grown to be pulling these sort of stunts. You're not a kid anymore, bro. We could be way better than that. We don't need to cause the divide. That's really wild, because I've hooped with everyone from different backgrounds, and the only difference is when a black person cross or dunk on you, you're probably gonna hear. Oh, City, the funny thing is, regardless of how Chalk may think or feel, it will be tough to win a chip with just one or the other. Ain't that something? I will say this, Ninja in the Smoke said, from someone who plays a lot with randoms, the color of your chark will affect is how randoms treat you. Oh, the color of your character. Sorry. The color of your character. This Semper with a 4.99 super chat said, I heard that Chalk was responsible for the Cuban flag in Spider-Man 2. It was you, Chalk. I knew it. Man. Chalk probably think all Puerto Ricans, we only play baseball and baseball. That's it. I would imagine Chalk probably said, nah, he's Puerto Rican. He's a baseball player, right? Like, what? Damn, Chalk. We probably gonna have to start the memes up. Like, for all stereotypes, just put Chalk on there saying the stereotype. I thought I was watching this clip. I think it was a YouTube short, and it was a white comedian on stage, and he said that black people sound cooler because they just say everything shorter. So he said white people say, all right. And so he went on to say, well, black people, they shorten that. And he points to a black person in the audience who's wearing a very similar hat to what I'm wearing. And he says, like, how do you shorten all right? And And the black person said, right. And he said, what in the hell? He said, from up here, I thought you were, hear me out here because it's funny. From up here, I thought you were black because the stereotype is that a black person would say, all right, not right. They say, all right. And that's why it sounds cool. So he was so thrown off that he ends up continuing with the joke. And he says, I had to get the only black person who answers with affirmative. I'm sorry if I stretched that out, but I thought that was like a good example that folks are so stuck within their stereotype, they'll try and stuff you in there. And here goes a black man in his audience in the front row wearing a golf hat who responds with the shorter version of all right is right. And because of his lack of awareness within black culture, he doesn't understand that that's how black folks respond. Grown black folks. Maybe somebody from a more hood or environment or something like that will respond with all right. But grown and educated black folks, if they were going to shorten it, they'd respond right. Or you hear right. So because of the comedian's ignorance, he was so shocked at it. And right from a black person sounded like affirmative. I just thought it was a perfect connection with what we got going on here. Is folks be just so stuck on their stereotypes that they can't imagine that folks with different upbringings, they could be raised any which way. It has nothing to do with your color of your skin, like nothing. You saw that Asian girl that speaks hella Southern on the internet. I don't know if she's acting or she was raised in the South, but yes. What folks don't understand? He said affirmative is hilarious. It was hilarious to me too, Espacio. I think it's okay because stereotypes are developed from your bubble. I think it's okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's okay to maintain these stereotypes, but what I'm getting at is that you shouldn't penalize somebody for ignorance, but let them know in a way in which Power DF shared it. You let them know, like, hey, homie, that's completely ignorant. You just don't know. Like, you really just don't know. You haven't experienced these type of cultures. And for the simple stereotype, if folks understood, if more folks understood this, if you want to talk about stereotypes, similar to the reference of like Brooklyn being dudes from Brooklyn being different from folks from the BX, and somebody from New York could pinpoint that. If you wanted to talk about stereotypes within the black community, there's so many different cultures that are raised damn near completely different. And the same goes for white in Spanish. I mean, you mix a Puerto Rican and a Mexican, and don't get me wrong, I get along with everybody, but cultures will clash because we're so different. If you just try to mesh our cultures together, there'll be a lot of love and fun and fiesta and all this good stuff. But what I mean to say is certain instances of our cultures will clash. So there ain't no way that you could define me by looking at a Mexican, because our cultures are so different for the most part. But if you take a Mexican and raise him in a Puerto Rican family around a predominantly Puerto Rican neighborhood, he's going to have Puerto Rican characteristics. So I thought it was fun. I know I'm long-winded here, but bias, that's what I mean to say. Yeah, that bias will always exist. But then you learn, you know what I mean? At some point you learn it. And you know what I find intriguing? Now, I don't know how old Chalk is, but he strikes me as a younger person to speak so quickly without knowing so much. So what I'm getting at is the idea of just outright speaking like like this is fact when you limit so much knowledge is what I find most intriguing. Like, you really think the whole world is like this? Like, you really think the whole world, in the whole world of 2K players, like there's not a white lockdown that's good? There's not a black point guard that distributes the rock. There's not a black center that's good enough. The only studs are white. Uh, Take a video game out of it. Imagine he said the same thing about an actual basketball team. There would be no question it was an outright racist thing. And yeah, facts. All City, the ruler's back. What up, man? He said, All City, if you mix PR and Mexican, you get Takashi 6ix9ine. Let's talk about it. Yeah. Takashi 6ix9ine is a perfect example of that. That's a perfect example. I know a lot of people consider him Mexican, but I bet you $100,000 where he was grown up, where he was raised, because we had the same thing in our hood. Everybody saw him as Puerto Rican. I know, I get it. We had Mexicans in our hood too, but they were raised as Puerto Rican. And only if you outright ask them directly, you'll get that. You'll learn that they were Mexican. Just absurd logic, man. Racism is absurd, though. And that's facts. Racism is absurd. Simple Reloader said he had to know that this was going to be a response. I can't believe he didn't anticipate this type of reaction. I don't think he necessarily anticipated a productive response. I know I would almost guarantee that Chuck expected a response because he had to take the time to type that stuff out. And I know he expected a response, but I don't think he would expect a positive response. I think it was more of a negative response to stir stuff up, maybe create some games, maybe create the white versus black leagues or tournaments, just similar to what 2K is doing with the affiliations. I think the idea, the thought process behind it was that it would create a certain divide. And not that the divide would be destructive, just it might create his intention might have been to create a divide for the greater good of enjoying 2K in his weird way. That could have been it. It could have been just that. You ever thought about moving? Yeah. I'm in the process of moving into different content of Family Man Fresh. Yep. You're gonna see me on different platforms. I'm in the process right now. Chalk saying this to be polarizing is done for clicks. Yeah, we know. Yeah, facts, Team Ambush. We're fully aware that it's done for clicks, but as we know, we talked about this as well. It's kind of old, it's dry, it's lame. Especially you do something like this for clicks. And we were talking about how there may be long-term effects because the internet's forever. So, for instance, this viewpoint he has, it shows his lack of awareness. Speaking on actual gameplay abilities based on the person's skin color is wild. What up, Manny? Appreciate you coming through. Well, we're talking about these messages that Chalk sent out, and I'll just pull this up. We won't go over it completely, but what he did here was I'll read this tweet off. He said, here's a foolproof 5v5 guide to know if your Pro-Am team will be successful. And he based the success of your Pro-Am team off of the player's skin color, not in the game, but the actual player. Chalk is 27. Interesting. Yeah, he's still in his 20s, so he's a young boy. I could see this level of ignorance coming from a young person who maybe has attained a certain level of popularity or success, but they're stuck in their own little bubble. Just similar to the idea of if I was in the PJs and I got successful during my time in the PJs, I would have never left. And I would have stood in my own little bubble world in the projects, getting money because I would be popular in my projects. So I'm getting my money, I'm chilling. Everybody knows it. You're treated. It is what it is. But in my own little bubble, in my own little world growing up, I saw one white person a month that would come through to go to the East River. So imagine what my perception would have been about white folks. I would have had an ignorant perception. But then again, I'm not somebody who would be quick to voice my opinions or thoughts on that because I don't have enough information. On the other hand, Chalk feels like he has enough information to kind of make the determination of what would be how you guys could foolproof your success in Pro-Am. So he goes on to say, let's break it down. PGs can be any skin color as the game has changed over the years. Your white point guards are going to play the game much more safe, look to pass, and get everyone involved, while your light skin and black point guards will play the game with much more flair and look to score first. Traditionally, white point guards have had more success, more league success. So I know there's some of y'all, if you're anything like me, your jaw probably dropped that someone actually put this out there. That's just the beginning. That was just part one of the tweet. I have part two, and he goes on to describe every single position and why or why not. Why or why wouldn't they be successful at the position? Uh, the Mavericks are hardly all white. I was lucky to be around lots of races. Same here. Yeah. Yeah. As I grew older and I started exploring past my projects, growing up in Manhattan, you're able to see different races very quickly. But in my, say, from 8 to maybe 14, while I was started going outside, something like that, and then till maybe 14, before having to venture out, you rarely, if ever, saw a white person. If you saw a white person, they were like a social worker or something, and they would dress the part. Every now and then, I remember. Matter of fact, I could give you guys a story. This is when they did a. No, this wasn't a raid. This wasn't the raid. This is when they were raiding, but they were trying to get one person, so it wasn't like a complete big drug raid. It was they were investigating a certain thing, and we saw this white guy walking in the projects. He had a tennis racket he thought this was a good disguise. Like the dude was so ignorant. Like he really thought that him alone walking into the middle of our projects, he crossed right the front of my building. Him alone walking in our projects in the first place would have ruined his disguise. But this dude was walking in our projects with shorts, a tank top, and a tennis racket in the case on his shoulder. It was like a strap and whatever. So anyway, we see him when we come out my building, but then we go play basketball in the court, and the same dude comes to sit on our bench. And we're all like, oh, hell nah. We've never seen, there's no white folks who were bold enough to do this. We've never seen it, at least. Not to say that white people aren't tough. I'm not trying to be chalk out here, but I just mean to say we've never seen that growing up. And it so happened that in the middle of our game, we start seeing swarms. Like folks just start running, and there was a bunch of detectives, undercover detectives, spread out through the projects because they were looking for somebody who I think he had committed a murder. And he so happened to be in a building that was close by to our basketball court. And we saw the white dude run when he saw his, I guess his partners running as well. It's like, got him. We knew it. We knew you wouldn't have been walking through here. You had to be a cop to walk through here like that. White people aren't tough, Chalk. This was Semper Reloaded just put. But for that same instance, in regards to white folks, I could tell you one time there was this gigantic white dude. Like, he looked like a wrestler, like a tall wrestler. I don't know who he was. He just came for like a week or something like that. I don't know if he was maybe related to somebody, but he was like noticeably gigantic and brolic. We knew it was only a matter of time. We saw his face a couple times, and he's walking through the Ave and at night as well. And that's extremely rare to see a white man that's just super rare at night, especially to have such a presence like him. I said, oh, this is not going to be good. And I'm young at this time. I'm really young. It's not going to be good. And he goes to our hood store where we get our sandwiches and stuff, is where the hood stays. That part of the hood stays. So we across the street, and we see him. His place was called Laura's. and they make you like a steak sandwich. They have the grill, whatnot. So there's always a lot of people around it because they have the grill. Everybody ordering food and stuff like that. So we across the street anyway, and we see the dude go into the store, and I already had seen him a couple times. Or quite a few of us have already seen him a couple times. Laura's had a excuse me, because this is hilarious. Laura's had a window, and it was a pretty big window. You could tell it was like custom. It wasn't just like a window that you see in normal stores. They had the glass door, but then there was a window right beside it. And we see this man walk up, and he was like I said, he's brolic and tall, so he causes a lot of attention. And in my hood, at least, I don't know if your hoods was similar, but it'd be the littlest dude. I mean, the tiniest dude that'll cause you the most amount of damage. And we knew it was only a matter of time before somebody tried to play. And it was almost like, at least I remember thinking there's something that's going to be lost in communication, because the dude is going to see almost everything as a threat, and he'll see a little dude and not think twice to hurt him, just like he would any other man. And what I'm getting at here is where an OG will see a little dude barking and maybe almost even admire it for being so little and you barking. It shows like you got heart. Like we look at a Chihuahua type of thing. Like we look at our Chihuahua and say, "Yo, no, homie, our little killer got heart." So he goes into the store, and a little while later, all you see is, I'm dead serious, I'm not even joking a little bit, somebody literally flying, broke the glass and everything, flying through flying through the window. This dude picked somebody up and threw him like if this was a movie set through the freaking window. And all we see on our end, and he just comes out walking cool like nothing happened and went about his business. So, in regard to that, this is what I mean to say is like damn near every scenario, if you want to, say that white people aren't tough, or black people are this, or Puerto Ricans are this, or whatever. For every scenario that you could come up with, you'll find the scenario that's happened in your own race, man. And this is why it's hard. It's hard to. I'm sorry, Blake. That was just a good. These are some good memories. And when I look back on these memories, I say, well, how can I justify this thought process if I seen this simple stuff? Like I'm hella practical and hella logical. So how could I say that this about this person for the color of his skin when I seen somebody the color of his skin do this? So yeah, ragdoll like an NPC facts. So I just mean to say it, how do you come to these conclusions? It is what it is. We've been streaming for a long time. There are projects in the country too. They're called trailer parks, and most people there are white and are meth. Yeah, we know about. See, projects is different, and I understand that there's trailer parks, but to give you guys a scope of what projects are, and I'm not saying this to you necessarily, Semper, but just as somebody who doesn't understand. Let me count the floors. The doors in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's about 10 apartments per floor, and each one of my buildings was 14 stories. So 10 apartments on one floor, and then they're 14 stories high, and 21 buildings in one project. You think one building, one of the buildings, this is the difference with projects. And in the South is different because the projects are really small. And this is why I want to kind of get you guys the scope. There's 21 buildings in one project, and I grew up with 21 blocks. I think it was 21 buildings. If I'm not mistaken, I have to do the math. But anyway, there's a lot of buildings in one project, and we had 3 projects. So that span 21 blocks long. You think about putting that much low income families together in the middle of the city. It gives you a scope of how many people there's, just because if you've seen the PJs, you know how many people fit in one apartment. It's not like it's one person per apartment. So, and 2 elevators. So, and it's facts. Like Semper mentioned about the trailer parks is people are the same, man. I wish more folks understood that. A lot of people, especially when you consider, because I've seen I've lived close to poor white neighborhoods, I should say. Not trailer park like what you're mentioning. Just low income, I should say. Low income. And I've learned, like, wow, I was living there during Trump land, during the whole Trump stuff, and all you see was Trump supporters. And this is where I know things are transitioning now, but hear me out here, y'all. Hear me out. And because I wasn't supposed to feel comfortable. If I went by stereotype, I was not supposed to feel comfortable. This is where you see Confederate flags, you see Trump signs, people laying their whole yard out like big Trump banners. But man, you would think that that's a certain high level of ignorance. You would, at that time, because that was like where the debate was happening. And anyway, the reason why I brought that up is because I loved it there. It was just like being, one of the things that I loved about where I grew up is that as many bad things that happened, the people had good hearts. And I stress this a lot because it seems like when you have more to lose, you become less open to share. So like, moving out from where I came from and then moving into different neighborhoods and stuff like that, it's almost like you don't even know your neighbor, man. You don't even know your neighbor. And that's damn near impossible in the hood. They're going to know you. So, I grew up where it was damn near impossible for us not to know who's who. And I remember, and I think that works in all races. And more so is probably dependent on income more so than anything. The struggle is real, and when you experience the struggle, you learn to lean on folks. Do you get what I mean to say? You learn your vulnerabilities. And so many people are put in the position to have to be vulnerable. So when you're put in the position to have to be vulnerable, you're humbled. You get what I mean to say? So, and some folks that have a bit more may lack the ability or opportunity to be humbled. And then you see them where something that we learned as teenagers, you see these folks experiencing 30 years old, 35, 40 years old. Do you get what I'm saying? Does y'all with me on that, right? Y'all understand what I'm saying, right? Honestly, all city people just need to have a conversation with other people. Like, no one is talking to each other anymore, and it's so easier for people to close off. Yeah, facts, man, facts. And Team Ambush said, right, I knew everybody on the block. In the most communities, we lean on religion, church, but don't realize that's literally the community. Well, is there something wrong? Hold on, I can't see. What did he put there? Is this an old thing? Oh yeah, he said, right, I knew everybody. Is there tryouts this weekend? Possibly. Did I miss the homie's comment? Is there something? I see it on screen. Well, no. Is there something wrong being a Trump supporter? I see it now. I don't think there's something wrong being a Trump supporter, but similar to the stereotypes that we're talking about, there's a stereotype that goes behind being a Trump supporter. And that's what I'm getting at. I was supposed to, if I listened to the stereotypes, I would have went into this new neighborhood apprehensive. Do you get what I'm saying? And because I never ever listen to stereotypes and I only go by what I experience, uh, and that's just been my way since I was young. I never saw things the same as everybody else. To have hate, to lead with hate first, is what I mean to say. My heart doesn't function in that way. You could tell in my face, my eyes, everything. I don't function leading with hate. And I never have. Even in my bad years, being a bad kid type of years, I've never led with hate. If anything, I'd be curious. So anyway, if I was listening to stereotypes moving into this neighborhood, I would have been apprehensive, which would probably in turn lead into problems. But instead, what was happening was folks holding the door for you, folks greeting you good morning. And it was like, wow. There was an occasion where my dog had gotten attacked by a pit bull, and I had a Jack Russell, a massive pit bull at that. And who came to help me? Beating the pit bull with a stick while I'm on the ground. The dog is ripping my hand, trying to kill my dog. 2 white folks came wilding. One of the homies took a chair, started mashing the dog, and I'm like, the owner didn't come out. The owner left this big pit bull in their little yard with a baby fence. So this joint got free and came and tried to kill my dog. But it was 2 white folks that I'm on the ground. Get your effing dog. Get your effing dog. They come out, didn't even hesitate. One took a chair and the other one took it was a broken handle of an axe, of a shovel. That's what it was. Broken handle of a shovel. And everything is happening so quick, but while I'm on the ground, all I see is the one dude just like a baseball bat. He wasn't even holding him, and he was laser focused, bro. Laser focused, mashing them. And he had a gun on him, but there was just too many people outside. He didn't want to have that traumatic thing, is what he said. So he just kept mashing them. So, that's why I say I take things for how I'm experiencing them. F your stereotypes, man. I take it for how I'm experienced. Yeah, no. This was it was an American bulldog. It wasn't a pit bull. I think it was called an American bulldog. I went to court behind the thing and everything. They asked me if I wanted to put the dog to sleep. And I said, no, but I can't have that dog near or around me, because it was a traumatizing experience. Not too dramatic, but it was a traumatizing experience. So I said, I don't want that thing near or around me. So the thing is, they had to move it out. So the family had they had a family member in another town over. So that's what they did. But I tell you, man, I never see it like. And I think if you kind of just put those things to the side, those stereotypes to the side, you start seeing things different too. American Bulldog tag. Yeah, this thing was massive, bro. Oh man, bit your face and broke your finger. I'm sorry. I'm sure that brings back bad memories, me talking about it. What up, Toonie? What's going on, man? Yeah. Bit my face and broke. When I was driving through AZ, it was like that Trump stuff everywhere. Confederate flags, but the people was nice as hell. Yeah, that's what I mean to say. That's what I was trying to get at. It's like, if we were to lean on stereotypes, because it's one thing not to act out your stereotype, but you still truly believe it, even though you're seeing something completely different. You're seeing something completely different. You just won't see it. Like, you just can't see it because the stereotype has been how you was programmed. And I'm not trying to get technical or nothing like that here. I just mean to say, all you've seen or heard from people that you trust is what people are supposed to be, whether it be white people, black people, Spanish people, don't matter, Asians, whatever. It is what you see. Now, I could go over some of my ignorance. There was I'll share something funny with y'all. Now, I grew up in the Lower East Side, right? And the Lower East Side is right by Chinatown. And we're fairly close. But the Asian community within New York, from my perspective as a youngin going out in the streets, they pretty much kept to themselves. Uh, we had the Chinese restaurant. That's like our communication with Asian folks. So I didn't really get to experience much about Asian folks. I ended up moving to Bensonhurst. And in Bensonhurst, going that way, I think is maybe, I don't wanna say no lie here. So anyway, I could just say that the trains, wherever towards Bensonhurst, they had a lot, there was a heavy Asian community. So on the train, I see a lot of Asians, more so than any, and I've lived all over New York City, but more so than any was when I lived in Bensonhurst, that I see so many Asians on the train. This Asian neighborhood. What was funny to me was that they'd rush in, and I think this is part of their culture because it's so packed, I guess, where they're coming from, that they'd rush into the trains like it's a video game with no regard for anybody else, no matter who it was. They were getting a seat. So this is not we don't understand that culture. We don't understand being like that, because that could get you into so many problems acting like that in New York. If you try to go ahead and rush for your seats like that in the BX and see what happens. By the time you're rushing, either your face is going to be smashed into the seat, or you're going to be like yanked back hard too. So me seeing that, I thought it was I thought it was really rude and inconsiderate is what my thought process. And after doing this day and commuting day in and day out, it became annoying. It became hella annoying to me. And oftentimes the train would be empty. Like we're like going into an empty train and everybody rushing like as if there's not gonna be seats left over. Like you could do a head count as you see the train pulling up. You say, oh, most people do this, by the way. You kind of do your head count and see as the train is pulling in, you see how many seats are left. It's almost like second nature to do this, just to know if you're gonna have a seat for the rest of your ride, and whether or not you need to kind of finesse a seat or something like that. So, especially if you're going home for the night after a long day's work. So I saw this as hella rude, hella inconsiderate. It'd be silly to me. So what I'm getting at here is that in my ignorance, I developed this weird stereotype that all Asians are like this, and solely from my little bubble, in my little part of the world on my commute home, this is what I seen, and it was annoying. I found it annoying, and if I was to judge all Asians off of that, I'd be hella mistaken. So it so happens I had this view of Asians because of those experiences for an extended time. I had this view of Asians where it was like, I never want to go to anywhere, any Asian countries, because I didn't want to. This is my ignorance, yeah. I'm speaking my ignorance, yeah, honestly. I never wanted to experience what it was because I just saw them as hella rude, and I don't have the patience for folks being rude. So it's best I stay away. It so happened that I was a graphic designer for an Asian company. And this years later, I ended up being a graphic designer for an Asian company, and they were the absolute nicest. And I'm not speaking nice like what you guys are thinking. They reminded me, because it was predominantly Asian, they reminded me how this is the beauty of it. Had I never had this experience, I would have maintained my ignorance. But having that experience for an extended amount of time in that workplace, I realized that, we are a lot alike. There's a lot of aspects of the culture because I got to be around daily so many different Asians. So, and I think about I'm thinking the personalities are running through my head right now. The people that I was running into because if I relate to everybody could think about if you're Puerto Rican, especially I could speak for being Puerto Rican. If you had an uncle that's a joker, uh, and he's always like busting your chops and stuff like that, this culture has that too. So I'm experiencing this stuff and I'm like, yo, he's joking, sarcastic joking, similar to what would happen in my culture, where they don't even care if you get the joke or not. The joke is on you if you don't get it. You know what I mean? So I these are aspects of the Asian culture that I never got to experience. The kindness, the warmth, the consideration, things that I thought they lacked solely from my experience on a commute home from work with people I didn't even know. I had spent years of my life with that thought process about Asians solely based off an experience that I had. Well, not one experience, but an extended experience I had for taking the train. Never a conversation, never good morning or anything. Like I never extended any effort to know these folks, but I developed this impression of these folks. Is what I'm getting at. And it so happened I was proven to be completely wrong, although I held this view. And I could say it was probably in my 20s. It was probably around the age that Chalk is. Uh, and, and as this is why, like folks really say you gain wisdom as you get older, because I was so certain that that was the case for Asians. And then I get around and got to experience their culture and their way of being and how warm and sweet and joking. They're like real jokers and the pranks and setups. It was like, yo, we are a lot like I think this happens in damn near all cultures. We are so much the same, but we never get to share our culture with folks. Yes, perception is reality. Yeah, yeah. Kevin Gray said video games shouldn't have anything to do with race. If anything, we should all be together as gamers and not black and white gamers. This is supposed to be our safe space. And it's facts. And I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin Green, because it's facts for a lot of players. Gaming is their safe place, man. If you're an introvert or you just need to get away, a lot of people, from young to old, use gaming as their getaway. And I'm glad that you shared that. I think there's most people be like, yeah, we know that, man. Stop. Nah, but it's like we know that, but then we don't fully work to keep it safe. You know what I mean to say? Like we know it's supposed to be our safe place, but homie, there's people that are gonna try to infiltrate your safe place. You know what I mean to say? And I don't want nobody infiltrating my safe place. Uh, and if you do infiltrate it, then let's have a productive conversation about it, because I'm not having you ruin my good place. What up, Bay Area bullies in the building? When you look at the principles, Asian culture is very close to island culture. Family and respect is huge. And like I said, I was completely naive, completely ignorant. Uh, and is one of the things, the reason why I brought it up is that is one of the things that I'm most grateful for learning, because I never wanted to have these negative impressions about a group of people. It wasn't what I wanted to have, and I didn't like having the impression. I didn't come across a lot of Asians outside of moving out of Bensonhurst, but even still, I didn't like that about myself. And here I go, get involved to work in a freaking place that's predominantly Asian. And I was a little apprehensive, although my interview initially went absolutely great. And it gave me a little bit of insight to what I was going to experience, because it was the VP that I was interviewing with. So I got a little bit of insight. I figured if it's a trickle down effect, then everybody's going to be just as nice. And sure enough, they were not only nicer, you would think that it would have been a robotic experience. Nah, everybody had their own. And I know I'm talking super ignorant, but I'm trying to be open here. Think about the first time someone having this negative outlook on a particular race or group of people, and then actually allowing your mind to accept different from what you have conditioned yourself to think. And that's what I experienced. And that's why I appreciate this experience so much, because I remember going in slightly apprehensive. I'm always going to smile when I meet new people. I'm always going to be nice and friendly. But I thought the reception was going to be different. I thought the reception was going to be, similar to what I would see on the train, where they wouldn't even give you eye contact as they damn near trip you trying to get a seat. And then you're looking at them tough and they will not look at you. Like, you're looking at them upset on the train and they will not look, like, nobody, no eye contact. That's what I experienced for years. And that's why I found this so rude. And here I go to go work in this environment, and the reception that I received from my gesture of extending kindness and saying, things like good morning or smile, is this warm reception and wanting to getting to know me and talking to me. And it was just such a good thing. So appreciative that I experienced that. And that goes to say, like, regardless of your stereotype of what you think you know about folks, you know nothing unless you got years invested with cultures and personalities. You know nothing. You can't base that on anything. And you should be happy. It's a better place to admit you just don't know. Because it's a much heavier and taxing place when you think you know something that isn't. I'm telling you, it weighs on you. It's heavy when you're trying to hold on to knowledge that just isn't factual. Yeah, 2 hours is crazy. We out here. It's fun. Definitely a good stream. Can you recap as to where the subject came from? Yeah, so where the subject came from and why we went down this road in the first place. I appreciate you guys taking the journey with me during this stream as well, because it did, you never know where these streams are going to end up. But anyway, it all started with Chalk. And Chalk said, here's a foolproof 5v5 guide to know if your Pro-Am team will be successful. And the parameters on what Chalk chose to choose whether or not your Pro-Am team will be successful was based completely on your skin color, whether you're white or black. And he goes on to describe each position, saying point guards can be any skin color as the game has changed over the years. Your white point guards are going to play the game much more safe, look to pass and get everyone involved, while your light skin and black point guards will play the game with much more flair and look to score first. Traditionally, white point guards have had more league success. And this is part of Chalk's foolproof plan to know if your Pro-Am team will be successful. And he goes on to describe every single position, from shooting guards to locks to power forwards to centers. And he uses that same logic throughout describing each one of those. So that's where this stream rooted from. It was definitely a good conversation. I appreciate y'all sticking it out here. Pause. I will catch up with you guys either on the next video or live stream. I'm finna wrap this up. Wishing you guys a safe and blessed rest of your day. Easy, y'all.